Hello and welcome to the Daily Loop. Right, let's get into it. So, transfer bids. Okay, so we've got two. This is for the AMC, I think, that we've not been using, that we bought pretty early on, and this was the guy that we accidentally bought. We bought the wrong guy. It wasn't a complete mistake. Like, he looked pretty similar to the guy we actually wanted to buy, so he wasn't completely terrible, or we probably would have noticed. So he was alright. The bid is coming, that's about 400 and something thousand more than paid, close to 500,000. So I think realistically, let's look at him. So once you add on the signing fee and the wages were paid after 90, like if we end up a bit ahead, whatever, 100k, maybe a little bit more, less than 200. So we end up a bit ahead. I think we are just going to sell this guy. Pretty much. I can check the projection, but yeah, I mean, we're just going to sell him. It could be like another month before we get a bid, and yeah, it might be that he's worth a bit more or whatever, but it's just not worth hanging on all that time to what is effectively potentially making maybe another 100k or something after you take into account all the wages would have to pay in that time, whatever that time may be. Thing is, that's the thing, it could be like a month, it might be a couple of weeks, we don't know. That's the thing. So we just got to take the chance because we're desperate for the cash, so to speak. So I think we just will sell this guy. He's not playing at all. He's not. Yeah, we just got to sell him pretty much. So sold. And then the other guy, I think we probably would sell him, but because he's just not good enough to be anything or whatever. But the issue with this guy is we can't sell him because we're down to the minimum number of players in our youth squad. So it's not that big a deal because, again, like, you know, you're talking about a minimal amount of money here. If we sold him now versus selling him tomorrow, let's say it's going to be 5-6k less. Not a big deal. So the other guy was the important one. Now if we check our projection, it should be quite a bit healthier. It's like it's a lot more, plus it's projecting downwards less because we've given up those wages. So it gives us something, what was it, close to something like, I should have paid a bit more attention to the amounts involved, but I think it's something close to like 2 million extra on the projection now. Right, scouter players. He was just one of the ones we were waiting to sell, basically, so that's why it was just a no-brainer. So we're also waiting on the keeper, this keeper here, who is probably good enough. He should be starting or whatever, and we'll get to that when we get to the matches, but I think we definitely want to sell him when we get the bid, so we're kind of thinking we should develop this guy up a bit in the meantime. So we're waiting to get a bid for this keeper to sell him. And then I think, who else? Let's have a look. And then they're the main two. So we got rid of one of the two that we're really waiting to just sell. There's other ones here, but I think we're okay to hold until we get replacements. So really it was, you know, to be honest, we could have, I don't think we're going to end up time to play all of our league matches. We could have, the thing is, it doesn't really matter. Like, at the end of the day, if we definitely want to sell that guy, we should just sell him. If this guy gets injured, we're better off just to play a different tactic and give different players appearances and training points and stuff, and just try some other stuff out, basically. Just see how much certain injuries hurt us when the matches don't matter. So yeah, not too bothered. We sold now anyway, so it doesn't make any much difference if we worked out we should have kept him. But yeah, so at the moment he was one of the two that we're definitely looking. The other one is the keeper. There's some others that if the bid comes in we would just consider, depending on what it is and other factors. So I think this is, for example, who is this, for example? This DMC, but we probably want to get the replacement first. See, that's the thing. We probably want to get replacements for these guys before we clear them. So I don't know if there's any exceptions to that, to be honest. So moving on. Right, scouting pool. Other than the keeper, because we've already got the replacement. That's the thing. Right, so we'll sort by, I don't know if I like sorting by age or position. Position just feels easier because I can just focus on the right attributes and go no. So even though we end up with older players and we have to check them all, I don't feel like it's much slower, if slower at all, to be honest. So this guy just not too expensive, too high wage, not high enough shot stopping. This guy too old, too high wage, too old, too high wage. Don't use left back, but kind of okay or whatever, but don't use left back. So don't use left back. These were both okay, to be honest. Oh no, not this guy. This guy's okay though. If you 6 to 10, whatever. We don't use them. Don't use again. This guy's all right, to be honest. Just not good enough for us to entertain because we don't use a left back. So we'd have to add a position and whatnot. It's just not enough there. This guy, oh man, he's quite the set of left backs, to be honest. They're all kind of, maybe not one of them, maybe not this guy because he's so slow, but the rest of them are kind of like, if we use left backs, we would have considered all three of these guys, I think. This guy, really nice combination of that super fast speed, good enough tackling, really good crossing or whatever. If he's could be of a wing back, well, I don't know. This guy, like, they seem like this. Anyway, we don't use a left back. Too old. Central defenders, just we don't need this guy. We don't need this guy. He could be alright, we could consider or whatever, but we got graduates coming through, 2 of them I think that are going to be DCs, and we've already got 1 DC that we're happy with. So as far as youth DCs are concerned, they got to be really good. Again, just not quite good enough to tempt us. Not good enough. Too old. Don't use right back. Don't use left wing back. Right. Check if he's got a boost left. He doesn't, so they're all applied. I think he's just not quite good enough, combined with, I guess, the low determination. So it's not even worth us sort of thinking, well, you know, we'll develop him up. Like, I think, I don't know. Plus, we don't know for sure. We won't end up with a deal. He just again, it feels just like the type of guy that if it was the start of next month and we got him, and we knew that we needed him or whatever, then maybe. But for now, I think we pass. Not 100% sure, to be honest, because because the passing and the vision is okay, and the tackling is fine, and he's fast and he's decent in the air. And kind of ticks boxes here. The positioning's not atrocious. It's, you know, whatever. The endurance is particularly low, but the natural fitness makes up for that a bit. He's got some really high stuff that doesn't matter too much for our DMC, like crossing, work rate, finishing. I think just unfortunately, and then the ceiling isn't that high as well. I think that's another down part of him. So I think we'll just pass. But yeah, if it was the beginning of next month and we needed a DMC for our youth team, it would be different. We might get him then. This guy, I think, is just a bit too expensive for us. Well, he's 5.58 million, so he is just way too expensive for us. You might be able to consider this guy if he was just way cheaper, but you know he isn't. So let's move on. This guy, yeah, it's not quite there. Really fast though, but just not enough passing and tackling for what we'd want. Don't use right wing back. Don't use right wing back. Right, so let's think about this guy for a second, because it's kind of interesting, to be honest. We might have to compare him to what we've got. So the tackling is only 37, so he's not that great for the up and back wide midfielder. For the more attacking oriented one, it's okay, I guess, but ultimately I think not good enough, as in finishing not good enough, composure not good enough, strength probably not good enough for what we'd want. Maybe the crossing isn't good enough. I don't know, it's close, to be honest. The wages are a bit high. Signing fee okay, age a little bit high, but at the end of the day, he's got some really strong stuff here. He's got, at least for the wide midfielder role, the work rate matters. He is fast. He's got super high natural fitness and decent endurance, which helps a bit for that being that fast and that work rate. His passing is okay and the vision is fine, so he's definitely more suited to this wide midfielder role, but the 37 tackling could be an issue. Why don't we compare him to what we got? So there's this guy who's just way younger. He is slower. And he is the up and back, and his tackling is also low. And then he's got better crossing. I think he's better than this guy, but he's obviously older and has higher wages and more expensive. But I think he is just probably better than this guy now. This guy's got a ceiling of 62. We didn't notice the ceiling too much of the other guy. So anyway, so there's that guy. And at the end of the day, to be honest, that's who he's probably being compared to here in the end. Because this guy, he's going to be better than this guy, but this guy's just different because he's starting squad, low wages, whatever. So we're happy to carry him into another season. It won't be those low wages forever, by the way. It's just their starting wage and their starting renewal wage. So we'll only get them for this wage for one more season, but that'll be long enough to have plenty of opportunities to replace him. So I think at this point we are just comparing him to, because we know, for example, this guy's a better attacking guy. He does have the low finishing, whatever, but I don't know. Yeah, he's probably better. The thing is, this guy can't tackle at all. It's quite interesting because we've ended up with trying to prioritise tackling and just simply not. Oh, wait up, we did get it with this guy, I think. So he's the up and back one with horrible finishing. So I think in the end, actually, if we get this other guy, there's a couple things here. So one, we've ended up with probably more depth than we need, because at the end of the day, we run 2 wide midfielders and 1 on the bench, probably. Or don't even necessarily have 1 on the bench, but we certainly run 2. And the thing is, we've got 3 that we're happy with, and this guy that we're ultimately happy with for all of next season to be the 4th choice. So it's not a priority. If we get this other guy, then this guy basically gets relegated to not really playing. But he's better. That's the thing. Let's think of this guy. Let's look at this guy's ceiling. What is it? 67? He's fast. That's the thing, and good dribbling. And whilst the strength isn't high, it also isn't low. I don't know. There's stuff to like here, to be honest. 79 speed, 78 dribbling, 50 something tackling. What was it? Let's go back and check. Sorry, 51. So same speed, more dribbling, lower strength. To be honest, he's not. He's arguably better than this guy. He is 3 years older though. That's another key point. It's interesting. We could get him. He's certainly, I think in the end you're basically saying he's just, our first 2 choices are going to be this guy who's injured that we just checked, and this guy. Whoop. Is it going to work? No. Right, it's going to be this guy. 89 is way faster. So he's not as good as them, and these guys are younger. I think we pass, unfortunately. I really like the look of him, but the thing is, when you're looking at these ages, we really are trying to build, we are really looking for closer to 22, 23 years old generally, unless the player is sort of truly outstanding somehow, where like this guy, it's kind of just not really an option to get 82 tackling for a player that age. And we got this guy super cheap. Even then, this guy's sort of a stopgap, to be honest, to some degree. He is 27, like he will carry over if we need. Big wages, obviously. I think we pass on that guy, unfortunately. just because, yeah, I don't know. It's close though. This guy's really good. That's the thing. And interestingly, he's not perfectly suited to the attacking role, but he's not perfectly suited to the up and back role, but he could do either. So there's flexibility there as well. Let's just move on. Maybe so he's not as good. I think specifically just he's slower, which is an issue. And the other stuff and he's older and whatever, right? So too old. Right, let's just quickly go through the rest and mull over this decision at the end. So this guy, too low tackling, too expensive, not quite where he needs to be for 19. Not where he needs to be for 19. Not good enough. Too expensive for how good he is, I think. I think in particular we would want higher tackling. If he had 73 tackling or something, we might get him. I don't know then though, because it's still quite expensive, high wages, and a bit old for us. But yeah, so there's too many things to exclude him here. Not high enough passing, too old. Having said that, this guy's pretty close to our perfect AMC, but he's 34 basically, and he's 1.6 million wages, so he's crazy good basically. But he's pretty close to almost being perfect for what we'd want for our AMC. But yeah, just too old at the moment. Maybe in a few seasons' time, we're in Division 1, it might be the type of player we get to push us over the edge to get us promoted to the Masters League. Because in that sort of context, like getting promoted, yes, you pay the million and the 1.6 million wages, but if he gets you promoted, like the amount of extra stuff that you get is totally, between all of the extra, stadium income, it's millions and millions extra for those like end promotions from, even it doesn't even have to be from Division 1, or even if this guy gets you from the Division 2 to Division 1, it's easily worth it. Probably even from Division 3 to Division 2, if he was going to push you over the edge, it'd be worth it. So it's not scary from the perspective of this player is going to push you over the edge and let you get promoted when you otherwise wouldn't. Totally worth it, basically, for any level of promotion if he's going to be the difference. He's just not going to be the difference for us, or we don't believe, before he retires, basically. So moving on. Too old, too slow. Don't use left winger. I think not quite where he needs to be for 18 years old for us to consider him as a striker, and a bit expensive. Don't use left winger. Too old. This guy, I think just not quite where he needs to be. To be honest, we want that passing and vision and some other stuff, and it's just not quite. Not a million miles off though, by the way, because he's got some good stuff, but I think he's just not quite, unfortunately. It'd take quite a few things to be higher, but yeah. Anyway, moving on. This guy, again, he's just not where he needs to be for that age. Not a million miles away again either. Too low passing, too old, but awesome passing and vision. This guy's pretty awesome as well, but yeah, just too old. Don't use right winger. 18 finishing, just not good enough for 18. Not good enough for 19. Not good enough for 20, although he is really fast. He is the type of player, again, that even though he's never going to be that great in a high division or whatever, if we didn't have any strikers for our youth team, he could just be a goal a game type striker just because of all that speed versus the competition. So if we needed a striker for our youth team, he could be one that we purchase. This guy just too old basically for us, and too old. So it is just that left midfielder in summary, and I think it is the case basically. I think that we would buy this guy if we didn't already have 3 other guys we bought that play these wide midfielder roles that we're happy with, and we didn't have that, and or we didn't have the starting squad player that we're happy with. But I think it's the fact that we have got 3 that we've bought that we're happy with that are all materially younger, and a starting squad player who's on minimum wages. So there's no real urgency for a 4th choice. I think we pass, unfortunately, even though he's kind of awesome, really. Like, ticks a lot of boxes here. I think the main box that he doesn't tick, quite frankly, is the box that we need him to tick for a 26-year-old on these wages, which is that he needs to be a clear-cut starting player that's a material upgrade over what we've got, and he isn't that, unfortunately. He's just probably a clear-cut upgrade over our third choice wide midfielder. But, at this age and these wages, he needs to start, and he wouldn't actually start. So, unfortunately, I think it's a pass. Right, moving on to the academy trialists. So, we're waiting for these guys. The movement came out. It's low. The work rate came out, I think, before 6. This guy, composure, 51. Really good. So this guy is basically that low determination, but yeah, 51, 50. He's got some really good stuff. 55 tackling, 59 marking, 57 aerial ability, 51 composure, and he's not fast, obviously, but he's not as fast as this other stuff is, but it's still pretty good, fast enough, so to speak, especially if he's next to a fast. If the other central defenders are fast, this is totally fine. If the vision comes out high, he could be quite a nice play, like a ball-playing defender. And the positioning is important. We'll see what that comes out at. But on the whole, I think we're probably just going to end up keeping this guy because he's really nice now, especially with his 51 composure coming out. Right, this guy, we had 3 left. The first one was endurance. That's come out, and it's 57. What a monster. An absolute monster physically. Unfortunately, yeah, we still can be let down here. We'll just have to see. Right, and this guy was fully revealed, and the agility was one of the big ones. Okay, so that's really low. Unfortunately, it probably means we go for the other keeper, but it's still not completely clear cut. Let's not bother making that decision right now, because there's only a decision that needs to be made here if there's a player below that we're interested in. So let's see if there is such a player first, and then we can have the big conversation about these two guys. And even if there isn't, we'll have a mini conversation about what we might have done to swap out. So let's go. So this guy just not good enough. Don't use right winger. Not as good as the other DCs, couple DCs we got. Don't use left winger. Don't use right winger. 7 passing for an MC. Don't use right winger, but sort of decent looking. 1 determination though, big put off. In particular, for us, the determination is a huge put off because we are a very low division team that has basically no youth players that we've recruited. So what that means is that basically all of these 6 graduates could, if they're the right players with the right attributes and the right positions and the right bloody blah, but that's all within our control. All of this opportunity, this whole month to make sure that they are those players. They will be starting in our youth team next season and the season after. They will be starting for the next 6 seasons in the youth team. So having high determination with 6 seasons of starting versus low determination is a big, big difference. Much bigger difference than, for example, if you're a much higher division team where you're going to struggle to get these younger players a few substitute appearances. It doesn't impact things that much. The more you play them, basically, the more the determination impacts things. And for us, they will be getting played basically almost like the maximum amount possible. It's even quite conceivable that these guys could end up with quite a bunch of senior team appearances on top of that as well over the next 6 months. So it's such a big deal, the determination. So 1 determination is kind of almost like a deal breaker, almost, no matter what the rest of the player is just about. And we don't use a right midfielder, but other than that, he looks pretty nice. This guy, not as good as the 2 central defenders that we have. But if we didn't, we might consider getting this guy because he's got 59 marking, 53 composure, 51 tackling, 48 area. It's a little bit low. Ideally, you don't want 34 speed and not be fantastic in the air. But he's got 50 determination, so we just talked about how important that is. At the end of the day, this is a guy we probably would bring in one of these keepers if we didn't already have 2 other central defenders here that are better, and a 19-year-old central defender in our team that we will be starting next season. So we probably won't bring him in, but if we needed to bring someone in, because one of these guys we definitely didn't want, then we would. If, again, the DC situation, too many DCs. Moving on, not good enough. Just really slow and vision low and tackling low. I don't know, maybe. I mean, just, alright, let's look more. So, good vision and passing, just fine. A lot of really low stuff, but at the end of the day, right, so it's finishing long shots and composure. So this guy is basically not attacking at all. He's going to be very defensive in nature. So the tackling would have to come out really high. The determination would have to come out really high. If either of those are not really high, we wouldn't consider him. But then additionally, he's going to be very defensive, and his positioning is only 2, which is horrible. And then also, his marking isn't great. We want our... and then the really high passing and vision is somewhat nerfed considerably, to be honest, by this really bad control. So we can't even make him like a... Let's say the tackling comes out super high, we could be looking at this guy, or we'll add DMC as a position and turn him into a deep line playmaker, so where everyone will feed him the ball, but then his control's really low. I think not quite here. Even if the determination and the tackling both come out at sort of 50s. I think he's just not quite there. It's close, but again, you're talking about needing to add a position to him. Like we were saying before, that's worth £2 to £2.5 million to us in and of itself. So we probably don't bring this guy in. We will re-look at the keepers in the end, because of all the players so far, this is probably the one that we would bring in. So let's move on and see if there's a better one. This guy, alright, so 58, the awesome determination, near perfect tackling as a start point. Good speed, bad in the air, but we could cater for that. The positioning is bad, so basically straight away you're saying not good in the air. He's going to be the stopper, so he's just going to run out and make tackles. So what matters more is the speed, what matters more is the tackling, and that's pretty good. The endurance is low. They're really good passing, but the horrible vision. So again, it's like good for him to be able to recycle the ball or whatever, but not great for him to be a ball playing defender. You know, he's all, again, I think it's just the same as that. It's probably better than that other DC, to be honest, a little bit. We'd rather this guy. But better for us, not necessarily better for everybody, but better for us. But again, we just got 2 better DCs there. So same sort of deal there. So this guy, don't use right winger. I think just too many super low attributes when basically every attribute is important for keepers. So, and then we've got these 2 other keepers that are just better. So let's just move on. This guy, like, actually really well rounded, I would say. But again, there is some issues here, like the 3 endurance and whatever. The determination not particularly high, but the main issue really is that we just don't use an AMR. So we probably just won't consider him on that basis. But quite nice looking. If we did use an AMR, or we're allowed to, let's say, then we definitely, at this point, you'll be very happy to see a player like this at this late hour, because he's pretty good on the whole. This guy, I think just some really low attributes. The passing is really low. I think we would go for the other MC if we were to go for one that we were talking about before. And then this guy, we just don't use the left wing back. So basically, there's a couple of DCs that we would think about bringing in, but it kind of doesn't make sense because we've already got 2. And then there's this one MC that you're effectively saying, like, you're leaning heavily into both the determination and the tackling both being super high. And even then, there's issues because his positioning is really bad and his control is really bad. And you have to add a position to him. So let's look at these keepers and see if we can make a clear decision right now. If we can, we might just dump one and bring that MC in. And if we can't, and for some reason thinking that revealing this natural fitness or organisation is going to help make that decision, then maybe we just wait. So I think the main thing here at this point is, again, the determination argument. So the main thing here is that this guy's got 59 determination, this guy's got 37. We really, really, really want this guy to be the guy that's better because of the whole thing about we wanting the high determination. But I think the unfortunate thing is that he's not better. So the other guy is better. Now the agility came up at 18, which is a big deal. Now there is the conversation about, well, he's got high handling, so normally when he dives to catch it or whatever, he'll catch it more often, but obviously not all the time. When he parries, it should typically be a very good parry. So basically, if you have low agility, the best possible attributes that a keeper can have to sort of maximally mitigate the low agility is extremely high handling and parrying, which this keeper does have. So it's not a complete deal breaker. Outside of that, his weaknesses are his durability, which I don't see as an issue because we should be looking to generally do really well. Well, who knows? In the immediate term, do really well in matches, but longer term, don't know. It's hard to say how big a deal that durability is. But really high natural fitness will help offset that a bit, and that's the next one being revealed. His other weaknesses is the one-on-ones. The other obvious weakness is the one-on-ones and the speed and the aerial ability. And yeah, obviously I think the speed, the other guy's slow as well, but the other guy's got 60 aerial ability. I think it's more of a general ability to deal with crosses and set pieces and stuff. So I think this guy, for example, he's got 30 command of area. We don't know the organisation and only 24. So he's not particularly great, and he's not fast to run, sprint to grab across. He's not particularly good at dealing with that stuff himself. Whereas this guy, he is slow, but he's better in the air, and he's got similar. He's a bit better, to be honest. He's not hugely better. This other guy's got 45 organisation. We don't know what the organisation is here yet. I feel like the fact that we're not particularly bothered about these other players, that we just wait and see what these reveals are. So I think in particular, these other ones still matter. If the natural fitness is really high, it helps offset that low durability. If it's really, really low, then it's a massive problem. And if it's somewhere in between, then who knows? And then with the organisation, I think we're basically saying that we have prioritised aerial ability generally across our entire squad. So having super high organisation is actually more important than the ability for the keeper to deal with the stuff himself. It's more important that he organises all of the our players to defend it better. So actually, it's not that big a deal as long as the organisation is really high. So I think, for example, we probably will end up going with this keeper if the natural fitness is at least an acceptable level, ideally really high, and the organisation is really high. Or maybe the organisation is a bit lower, but the natural fitness is super high to make up for that or something. I don't know. I feel like there's a chance, especially if these last couple come out really high, we definitely take this keeper. But obviously that's unlikely, and we'll just have to play it by ear. And it also matters if there are just other players that we were interested in. If there was a player here that we just really, really wanted to bring in, then we probably would just sacrifice this keeper now and just go with the lower determination one, rather than speculating on these two attributes. But I think because there isn't really any player here that we're that keen on, we'll just wait. So yeah. So that's that. So thanks for watching. We'll catch you for the next one.